All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today with another amazing segment with another incredible woman. I can't wait to introduce her to you. She has the biggest heart and she wants to help 1,000 women reach the millionaire mark. And she believes that no matter where you start, you can have the life of your dreams, that you can have it all with a strong faith, strong family, strong finances. She believes that her Millionaire Club is the way to go. This is where she mentors women around the globe towards wealth. She wants you to have the financial intelligence, emotional intelligence, digital intelligence, and social intelligence that is required to win. So with me today, I am so thankful and grateful to be in your presence today. Jewel, thank you. And please pronounce your last name for me.
Tankard.
Tankard. That's what I thought. Jewel Tankard. And I always I don't take that lightly when it comes to someone's last name because I feel like it's so sacred. So thank you so much for being here with us. I'm really excited and honored to have a conversation with you today and dive deeper into what it really means to create wealth.
Absolutely. Thanks, Didi, so much for having me. And this is definitely one of my favorite things to do, which is empower women and get them excited about, the fact of all the possibilities. I think today in 2022 is like the best time, I think, to be a woman. I think I love being a woman of color. I think we're so hot right now. And so really, you can do whatever you want to do, no matter what color you are. Once you make up in your mind and make a decision, and you can blaze some trails that I think will really change and inspire a lot of people.
Yeah, so I want to dive right into it. Joel, please tell us, what is your story, right? Like how did you get inspired, or what has you inspired to do what you do today? And
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it kind of started, I grew up with amazing parents, and they were the first African Americans to have a business downtown Detroit. And so I grew up with a mommy and daddy who worked very closely together. They were like a power couple before people were saying power couple. And so I grew up in that, and they did very well in business. And as a result, we ended up having, his and her Rolls Royce, his and her Mercedes. We had, had a Volvo at 16. We had housekeepers, cooks, and drivers. And then at 19, we lost everything. And I was devastated. My dad went into a depression. We were in a big, beautiful home in the suburbs of Detroit. There was no heat. It was cold. And we eventually ended up having to move out of that house, which was a sad time for my family. And all the cars, like within a matter of 6 months, were just gone. And so it was a really hard time for me. It was a hard time for my family. And I was the oldest girl. So I felt a sense of responsibility to, have to come in here and try to see what I could do. And so I started dating drug dealers. And so that was my financial plan, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, I can get enough money to pay the bills, make sure I keep looking cute, And then after a couple of months, it was fun for a couple of years. I would say not months, years. The yachts, the fast cars, but then, of course, just like anything, it started to crumble. Many of them started to, be killed and indicted. And then I had a best friend who was pregnant, 9 months. Her boyfriend was a drug dealer. She got killed, her and the baby. That was very devastating for me. And then my other best friend, her boyfriend got killed after them having a baby together. So it was just tons of drama. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is crazy. And so I ended up giving my life to the Lord. I went to church. And I remember distinctly coming to like a point of reckoning. Like, you went from your dad taking care of you to men taking care of you. Like, why can't you take care of yourself?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's when I started to really lean in heavy on financial education. And I was blessed to have mentors in my life, a couple of male mentors. It was like, seemed like everything was so male dominated. Real estate, so many men dominated that. Gold and silver, I got heavily involved in that. I got heavily involved in the oil industry and just business at large because I wanted to be an investor. And so that's what kind of started me on the path and wanted me to, as I became successful, I wanted to reach back to other women, whether they were housewives or a waitress at a restaurant or a CEO of a company or, a strategist. It didn't matter. I wanted to let them know that they don't have to wait on their husbands or boyfriends to become wealthy. And it doesn't mean we don't need men. I love my husband. And, but I also wanted my own financial freedom.
Yeah. And I think what you said really resonates with me in terms of why I do what I do is, of course, I was not as fortunate to have been born in like a really wealthy family like yours. But what I learned very quickly being born in a third world country and then having the opportunity to be in the States and having the opportunities to work and like really learn the value of money, I learned very quickly that I have to take care of myself too, because no one else is going to do it for me. My dad, was always there, but he was only there just to be there, just to say that like he has a kid, but there was no responsibility from his end. So I think that that is a big piece that we have to really educate women on, is that they have to be independent, like on their own, even if they don't want to be wealthy, right? Like they want to be able to sustain themselves, like they want to do all of that because truly they are capable, right?
Yeah, no, they're totally capable. And I think sometimes when people say they don't want it, it's because they haven't experienced it or they don't believe that they can have it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's what it comes down to, that they've compromised their dreams so much. Hey, as long as I got a roof over my head, food on my table. I think some of that, and particularly with women of color, is kind of systemic residue from slavery, was indentured servants,
Yeah.
personified. Like, I got a roof, I got food, I got love, I got peace. Yeah, but I don't know how much peace you're going to really have unless you have wealth. Everything is higher. Inflation is impacting everything from insurance to, interest rates as we see right now, food prices, gas prices, everything is elevated. So I think that it's almost mandatory that if you're going to live a quality of life, then you need to be thinking wealth. Because if not, you're probably going to find yourself not being able to do a lot of the things that you want to do. So I think by default, you've really got to say, hey, you know what, wealth is not an option for me, because I'm not going to tell my babies no. I'm not going to tell myself no. Right? That's what it comes down to. I'm not going to tell myself no. I'm giving myself permission to live the life that I always dreamed about. My parents now are in their late 70s, and I'm going to build a guest house in the back, because we have plenty of land back there. I'm at a point where I can do that. And I'm so grateful for my husband. He's very successful. But if he decided to not contribute anything, which he's going to, because he's just a great guy. But if he decided that he didn't want to, I would respect his no, but respect my yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And if you didn't decide to build your own wealth, you wouldn't have that opportunity. You would always have to depend on someone having, a say about what it is that you want. And even this is like building a house for your parents. I mean, this is what we do, right? So
Yeah.
that's so amazing. And I, as I was sharing with you, the intention of this show is to really paint a real picture of what it looks like to build well, what it looks like to be an entrepreneur. And I was going to ask you what challenges you have became like overcome, but I mean, you already shared it right up front, so that that you were up and then you were down. So I guess the question in relation to that is, how did you overcome all of that, from having everything to losing everything and then recreating it, right?
I
Like doing
think,
it again.
yeah, I think everybody needs to have a fight in them. I think everybody needs to have a love. I think if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to be a fighter. You're going to have to. And so the people I hang out with are fighters. I got girl fighters. I got some of my guy friends, like we're fighters. And we don't take no for an answer. I don't spend a lot of time being disappointed, Dee Dee. I don't
Yeah.
spend a lot of time being discouraged. It is of no benefit to me. Now, it doesn't mean that emotion doesn't come sometimes, like anybody else. You see what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's like, girl, you don't have time to be discouraged. You got too much to do. And
Exactly.
if I feel like if I can't get through the back door, then let me try the side door. If I can't get in the side door, then let me bust down the front door. If I can't get in the front door, then I'm gonna cut a roof and a hole in the roof like the man did in the Bible.
Right?
Like whatever I got to do to get there. And so I think that sometimes when a door shuts, we don't fight enough to go and create our own door. And we allow other people to tell us no. People, I don't care how many people tell me no, as long as I tell myself yes. When we get in trouble is when we stop giving ourselves the permission to say yes. And so I think that you have to be a fighter. And I think you have to hang around people that are fighters. I think you have to hang around people that are go-getters and that are ready to go all in. And there's not an option. I don't have an option to lose. And it doesn't mean that I don't take losses. I like to call them lessons, but the lesson doesn't have to become my way of life. Winning has to become my way of life. And that's how I feel about it.
Oh my goodness, I'm so like pumped up right now. I feel like I want to like get up and do my punches. I might underhook like right now, but it is true though. Like having that fight, having that fire is what is going to get past. And I agree with you, right? Like when you have so much to do and like you really feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, you don't have 2 minutes to even fight about something so trivial, like it's like to the point where with my husband I'm like, no, I don't have time for that. Let's just move on. What's the solution here? Like can we talk about the solution? Because if we don't have that right now, like we're not talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You got to be extremely solution oriented.
Yeah.
There's lots of challenges. There's lots of potential issues, but I choose to focus on the solutions and not the problems.
Yeah.
And I'm like anybody else, I can maybe start going down the trail and it'll be like, is that going to benefit you? Is that income producing? Is this conversation income producing? Is this conversation an asset to your confidence? Is this conversation going, when you hang up from this phone call, is it going to give you greater clarity? And honestly, I mean, I think all of us have those conversations every now and again, child, we girls, I like to get the tea like anybody else, right? But at the end of the day, I'm like, if it's not serving me, then I shouldn't continue to give myself permission to have certain conversations if they're not going to benefit me at the end of the day or benefit the people I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's what you're saying is what I feel like they need to be really, first of all, intentional, right? Like you have to have fight and fire, but being really intentional and asking yourself and being honest with yourself, is this thing going to get you closer to your goals? Because if it's not,
yeah,
it's a waste of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So where do, let's say, I know the women who are listening have been in business and they're ready for that next level. They're on their way to build wealth. What are some couple practical tips that you can share with them? Especially, I don't know what we're heading towards, but of course, like you have shared, it's going to be an area or a period or a season of some challenges in the rise, right? So if you have some advice for what they should be looking out for.
I think they need to lean in on one particular asset, which is crypto. I think Bitcoin and Ethereum, they need to be looking at that. I think it's recession proof, even though we've seen volatility in crypto, it's still the fastest growing asset in the last 10 years. If you look and you pair it up against real estate or gold or silver or oil, Bitcoin is so outperformed all those. So I think Bitcoin, and I think they need to also be very intentional about staying away from credit hacks. I think credit hacks are kind of like the Big Short that eventually they're going to call in all those nodes. So if you're not really ready for the Bentley or not really ready for the G-Wagon or really ready for the Lambo, don't get it. And though some things are marketing, I think you have to be careful that marketing doesn't cost you a couple $100,000. Mm-hmm. Right? Especially if you look and see, okay, well, what am I bringing in? And I think they need to really get heavy on cash, making sure that they have cash. Because I think the people that have the cash, just like the Rockefellers, I think it's going to be the same economic pattern. The Rockefellers had the cash in the 20s and 30s during the Depression. So where everyone else was losing, unfortunately, the guy that had the cash bought up all the assets for very low prices. And when the recession was over, they had established a great amount of wealth. So I think you need to be heavy on cash. I don't care if it's $100 a week, $50 a week, $20 a week, depending on where you are, $2,000 a week. You need to start stacking cash, and you need to start getting involved in things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's where I come in, and I can kind of help them get involved in some things that could really, bring some significant gain to them.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that you're saying invest in this, but then also be more conservative on this and really being able to manage their cash flow. It's super important. I know for my entrepreneurs, it may seem like it's flowing in, but then like triple the amount is flowing out, and like they're not really conscious with it, Yeah.
You got
So
to know when to trim. You got to know when to trim the fat, and looking every year. Usually at the end of the year, I start calling insurance companies, trying to see if we can get additional discounts. If I have, when I had car debt, see if I could, renegotiate that. A lot of times you can do a loan modification on your home. There are all kinds of things where you can trim the fat. Even cable companies now are reducing, if you call and say you're going to cancel your cable, they'll reduce it. In some cases, I've seen up to 30%, because everybody's going to Hulu and Netflix and Prime Amazon. So they're really fighting to stay in business. So I think, taking a week, I usually try to take a week at the end of the week and kind of sort out everything. I just had a meeting yesterday with the accounting firm that works with our books, looking at all the accounts, looking at, is there anything outstanding? Is there anything I'm doing wrong? Which I went through an entire restructure of our infrastructure over the last 2 years. And I think we're finally, one of our tax strategists said, I think we're finally there, where we had to do that so that we could continue to scale. So I think just making sure your stuff is in order. Don't bite off more you can chew. Don't try to keep up with social media, because you really don't know what those people on there, you don't really know what their balance sheet looks like. I don't know what their cash flow looks like.
right.
So I love the fact that they dress nice and that they have a Lambo truck, but that doesn't necessarily equate to real wealth. So I think we got to be careful not to be influenced by influencers, because unless you can see a person's balance sheet to know what's actually coming in,
Yeah.
what the liabilities are, do they owe the IRS? Do they owe a lot of other bills? Like, you don't know, So I think we got to make sure we kind of focus in and make sound financial decisions.
Yeah. And I think that's super important because, like you said, everybody may look a certain way, right, on social media, or some people might also look really good on paper too, and come to realize is, like you said, the balance sheet tells it all, or and it's interesting. I overheard this, but it's so true, and of course I have friends who are multimillionaires and things like that, and it's not about flashing it. It's so interesting. Like, one of the biggest facts when they say they discovered that millionaires, 85 something percentage of millionaires actually drive a 5-year-old car, because they rather use that money to invest in something that's going to like get them like 2, 3 times, 10 times the return. Who cares about the car? Like, or what the Joneses are doing.
No.
And the more that I learn about wealth, the more that I learn about like who these, like, the practices are these successful millionaires and multi-millionaires do, is that no one knows, how much they have. It's like, that's the crazy part. It's when like that just flying low in the radar, but oh boy, like when you really know them, it's like, oh, wow. That's true. That's well, like when no one knows about what you're up to and things like that. I think it's the opposite from what social media has painted the picture to be. And it's a great reminder. So how, if we need to learn more about financial education, like perhaps even in crypto, etc., like how do we find you? How can we be a part of your community?
Absolutely. So everything is Jewel Tankard, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of it is Jewel Tankard. My website is jeweltankard.com. And I have a Millionaires Club where we meet on Zoom like twice a month. and it's so rich. We're actually reading a book right now called The Science of Being Rich, and we've read a lot of really good books. We just read my book, The Mind of a Millionairess, and so we read the books, we discuss the books, and then they ask questions. They weigh in on things that they're doing. We take trips together. We just left Martha's Vineyard in Newport, Rhode Island, about 2 months ago, and now we're headed to New York to do a Black Heritage Wealth Tour, taking a look at Madam C.J. Walker and Rockefeller and their relationship, which is quite interesting. And the Rockefellers were really instrumental in funding Spelman College. And so, but thank God we have people now that can fund it. But I'm grateful for their act of kindness over the years and some of the wisdom that he even gave Madam C.J. Walker. So we'll be taking a look at Harlem, Cotton Club, that kind of thing. So that's coming up November 17th and 19th, but all of it can be found on Jewel Tankard. So yeah, you guys can DM me or, just reach out, raisethebar2020.com, I think is the website, or you can just get on my website, jeweltankard.com.
Amazing. That's so amazing. And I don't know if you know, but the great granddaughter of Madam C.J. Walker was one of the speakers on this series.
What? Are you serious?
Yes, you have to check out her
She
segment.
remember her grandmother though? She probably don't remember her because she died
No,
kind of young.
she only overheard from her great.
So what is she up to?
Oh my gosh, the I don't know if you know, but they have a new doll. They have like so many things coming out.
Right, the dowel. We were trying to order that dowel. The dowel to give as a token.
She told me about it before it even came out because we were talking about her being on the show. She made me promise I won't say anything. And they were sold out in 2 hours.
I'm so glad to know that she caught it. Because you never really hear about their family. You hear about, the Rockefellers, their descendants are very, vocal and prevalent, Vanderbilts. But I'm just so glad. That makes my heart happy. I'm glad to hear.
That's why I was so pumped about this show. I have you on there. I have, the great granddaughter on there. I was like, yes, this is just really showing people the opportunities are there. If these people could do it in the Great Recession and from nothing, like what we don't have any excuses. Like we just don't.
No, we don't. We really don't. All the resources, internet, social media, we're not dealing with, of course I believe there's still racism, but the reality is it doesn't impact you winning. If you make up in your mind, you're going to win. It doesn't matter who accepts you, who doesn't, especially in 2022, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So amazing. Thank you so much. This has been such an powerful conversation. I'm so empowered. Like I want to go out and like conquer the world, and like fight in me, make sure that's there. And thank you again so much for your contribution, for all the things that you do for the women, and like everything about you are who you are, and your contribution to this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me, Dee Dee. And we still got to connect, girl. We got to connect.
Yes,
so I know we're doing that. We'll be doing that soon. But thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you very much.